Hey fellas, so the end of chapter 6 here deals with imaginary numbers. Okay, this imaginary number I, you may or may not have heard it before, but basically what it does is it's a manipulation that we've come up with to be able to actually work with the square root of negative numbers. We define I as the square root of -1, okay, which is helpful because if we're able to square it, then we can actually do something useful with it, because I squared would be the same as -1. Okay, so what we're going to be doing is when we're simplifying radicals. Now, if you have a negative inside your square root, you're able to pull out the -1 and call it I. So square root of -r is the same as I times the square root of r. Okay, watch out. It's a little disclaimer here. You can't multiply negative square roots, so you need to basically pull out the I first. Basically, it's the same as simplifying first before you do the multiplication. Okay, so before we get into the examples, I just want to quickly run through powers of I. Okay, so if you have to find powers of I, right, we know that I is the same as the square root of -1. Okay, and I squared is -1. We've talked about that already. Okay, now I cubed is really the same as I squared times I. So it'll be -1 times negative square root of 1. So that's the same as -I. Okay, and I to the fourth is going to basically be I squared times I squared. So -1 times -1, which is +1. Okay, now if we continue this on to bigger exponents, we're going to notice a little pattern here. Okay, I to the fifth is I to the fourth times I, which is 1 times I, which is just I. Okay, I to the sixth is going to be I to the fourth times I squared, so 1 times -1 gives us -1. Okay, I to the seventh is I to the fourth times I cubed, which is 1 times -I. And I to the eighth is going to be I to the fourth times I to the fourth, which is 1. Okay, and you can see that this pattern here will move on, so on and so forth. So I to the ninth is going to be I to the 10th is -1, I to the 11th, so on and so forth. Okay, so that'll be helpful when we're working on that. Now, simplifying these radicals. Okay, so this first one here, number 1, okay, we're going to pull out, we could do the same stuff that we've been doing, right? But just pulling out a -1 first, so we have an I. Okay, so for this one, we know that this is equal to the square root of -1 times the square root of 16 times the square root of 2. Okay, and both this one becomes I, this one becomes 4, and square root of 2 we keep the same. Okay, so we would write this 4I root 2. Okay, now same way for adding and subtracting, like number 2 here. Right, we need to first simplify each of our terms. So this one on the left is going to be 5I root 6. And the one on the right is going to be minus 2I root 6. Okay, now we can do our subtraction. We're just going to do, since we're just going to be subtracting the coefficients, right? 5I minus 2I. Right? So you kind of treat the I as a variable, like I said, when you are adding and subtracting. So it's kind of like 5x minus 2x. Okay, so we've got 3I root 6. All right, number 3. All right, we're multiplying these. Remember, we pull out the i's first. We've got I root 3 times 3I root 3. Okay, you can simplify those, make sure I did it correctly. All right, now we actually multiply everything together. So this becomes really 3I squared times root 3 squared. Okay, root 3 squared we know is 3, so we need 3 times 3 is 9. And I squared is -1, so this whole thing is going to be -9. All right, same idea here, number 4. Okay, we've got -5, so that's going to be I root 5 times 5. Oh, sorry, not 5. I need the eraser. Good. Oh, it is 5. Sorry, 5I root 3. Okay. So multiply all these together, and we're going to have 5I squared root 15. Okay. Our I squared becomes -1, so it's going to just be -5 root 15. Okay, see how that imaginary number is helpful to us to be able to actually do something with these numbers and manipulate them. Let's go to more examples. Alright, so to simplify these, okay, we've got up here number 5. Now we're going to be dividing these things. We need to again pull out the i's first, simplify first, then we'll work with it. Okay, so we've got 4 times I times, we're going to pull a 3 out and have root 2 there, over 2I root 3. Okay, now we can work with these. Okay, now I over I is going to cancel each other out, right? Anything divided by itself is 1. So those will go away. Okay, we can do some simplifying here. That'll become 1. That'll become 2. Okay, we need to multiply by root 3 over root 3 to rationalize. And we'll be left with 6 root 6 over 3, which becomes 2 root 6. Okay, number 6 here. Right, same kind of idea. Okay, we need to simplify the top, or the bottom, sorry, to 4I root 2. Alright, now we can't have the root 2 in the denominator, but we also can't have the I in the denominator because that is a negative number. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply top and bottom by root 2 I, or I root 2. Okay, so on top we'll have 15 I root 2, and on bottom we will have 4I squared times 2. Right? Root 2 times root 2 is 2. Alright, now I squared, remember, is negative 1, so that helps us out quite a bit, and we'll be left with 15I root 2 over negative 8, or negative 15I root 2 over 8. Either way works. Okay, how to square these things? Right, you basically square both. Okay, so we know that I squared is negative 1, so this is just going to be negative 25. Okay, and we talked about cubing them. Same idea, you need to cube both, so it's going to be 8, but remember it's I cubed is negative I, so this is going to be negative 8I. Alright, and number 9, we do this one. Alright, we need to do both. Okay, now I squared is negative 1, and negative 1 times negative 1 is positive 1, so that means it's going to be a positive answer, and root 2 squared is 2. So it's positive 2. Finally, we've got, here, this one's probably easiest to see as, let's get rid of, okay, this one's probably easiest to see as this times itself, times I, negative I, root 7. Okay, so we've got negative I times negative I, right? The negatives go away. We're going to be left with I squared times 7. Right? Now the I squareds, it became a negative 1, so it's going to be negative 7. Alright? And to solve these few equations, we're just going to have some negatives in here, which we're going to get some i's in our answers. Okay, so we can subtract over the 25, divide by 4, well, 4x squared equals negative 48, divide by 4, x squared equals negative 12, square root both sides, x equals root negative 12. Okay, sorry, plus or minus root negative 12. Alright, now for that we have to simplify our negative 12, so we're going to have plus or minus 2I root 3 will be the answers for x in that one. And same idea for number 12 here. Okay, we subtract the x squared over, so 3x squared equals negative 18, divide by 3, x squared equals negative 6, square root both sides, x equals plus or minus root negative 6, which is the same as plus or minus I root 6. I know it looks like an E, but that's actually an I. Okay, I root 6. And that's really all we have to do with these numbers. So, hope that helps.